He choked on his knees before her, lips trembling, blood trailing from his mouth like wine wasted on unworthy soil. "Say it again, milady," whispered Kademir, the eldest of the 7 alphas once feared in 3 kingdoms, now reduced to a shaking beast of yearning. "Let me hear it before I die." Sabina looked down at him, her feet bare upon the cold stones of the ancient courtyard. Her skin, pale as moon-laced ash, glowed like the final frost before spring. She did not move. Her breath did not shake. "You do not die yet," she said, her voice a slow poison. "Not until your heart crumbles like your father's bones in my mother's hands." Behind her, the other 6 stood at a distance, not by choice. Their legs had long stopped obeying them. Tavion, the silver-eyed swordsman who once slaughtered a rival pack at the age of 15, now clutched his chest as the weight of her absence dragged at his ribs. "What have you done to us, Albes?" he gasped. This sickness in our spirits, it's you." She turned. "Do not call me Albes. I am no sister to your kind." A voice croaked beside him. "Then, what are you?" It was Elric of the Burnt Valley, once known as the Wolf that Feasts. He hadn't eaten in days, not because food was scarce, but because he could not keep down anything but the sound of her steps. Sabina stepped closer. The wind stirred her white braid like the trailing root of a ghost tree. "You remember the lone alpha you hunted near the Sahari dunes?" she asked. They blinked. The youngest of them, Lorcan barely more than a man, and yet already half maddened with adoration, whimpered. "The one who refused to fight, the black one." He looked at us and smiled. Sabina bent until her face hovered inches from his. Her breath brushed his cheek, and his knees nearly buckled. "He was my father," she said. A silence fell like winter's first scream. He died of weakness," whispered Veyric, whose pride had not yet fully burned away. "He did not even defend himself. What alpha does not defend?" "He didn't have to defend himself," Sabina snapped. "His death was not the end of him. It was the beginning of me. If you're still here, thank you. A like, a hype, or a sub helps me keep writing stories like this." Veyric staggered back, as if slapped. Sabina stood and turned again, sweeping her gaze over the 7 like a storm that had been caged too long. "My mother hid me because you call my kind a blight, because your packs believe an albino omega is a curse." "Because you are," murmured Berengar, the silent one, who had barely spoken since she arrived. "A curse I beg for every night." She laughed. Not a beautiful laugh, not a warm one, a scarred one. "My mother was gentle," she said. "She wept in the rivers, trying to wash off your king's blood from her mate's bones. But She stepped toward them, the stones cracking faintly beneath her bare feet. "I was born without tears." Another silence. Then Kademir broke it with a scream. It wasn't a scream of pain. It was a scream of revelation, the kind a soul releases when its last illusion is torn away. "We thought we were the conquerors," he rasped, "but we were the condemned." "Yes," Sabina whispered. "The bond you feel is not love. It is not fate. It is your sentence. You slaughtered him, and the mother spirit of the old continent took pity on my mother's tears. She carved a judgment in my womb. You are not mine. I am your executioner." She took one more step, just one, and yet it made all 7 drop to their knees. "You were never my mates. You were my leash dogs." Tears streamed down Lorcan's face as he reached forward, not to harm but to touch, as if contact could save him from the madness of this truth. "Why?" he begged. "Why let us fall so deep? Why let us kiss your hands, braid your hair, bring you offerings? Why let me dream of you every hour and wake up screaming when you're not there?" Her eyes met his. They were the cold blue of untouched glaciers. "Because my father begged for mercy, and none of you listened." Behind her, in the shadowed trees, a shape moved. Slow, silent, watching. Sabina didn't look back, but her voice trembled for the first time. "Mother, you can come now." The story shifts next. In the second segment, the truth of the mother's hidden power and her final pact with the spirit realm will change everything. From the forest's edge, she stepped forth like dusk, clothed in sorrow. Not a ghost, not a witch, but something older. Her name was once Mayoress of the Moonless Vale, Sabina's mother, but those who'd chased her called her the Cradle Widow, the last woman to bond with a black alpha, and the only one who lived to weep over his bones. Her cloak was made from the skin of the jackals who tried to devour her newborn. Her eyes were the same shade as soil after it had drunk too much blood. She said nothing as she approached. The alphas could not speak, not even Kademir, not even Varric. Whatever force held them in place, it coiled tighter now that she was near. Sabina did not look back. Her voice was quiet, reverent. "Did you bring it?" Mayoress's arms unfolded. She held a bundle wrapped in crimson cloth, soaked in something darker than wine. Tavion's eyes widened. "Is that—" Sabina turned, face lit with a storm. "You remember my father's jawbone, Tavion? You broke it yourself, said it'd be a trophy." Mayrus laid the bundle on the stone before her daughter. The cloth unraveled with the gentleness of ritual. Inside, bleached by time, cracked by fury, was the blackened jawbone of the alpha they murdered. Lorcan vomited. Elric fell to his side. Sabina lifted it in both hands. "I had dreams when I was a child," she said. "Dreams of fireless deserts and wolves, howling with no tongues. I didn't understand them." She turned, holding the relic before the seven. "Until I saw your faces." Berengar, silent, no more spoke. "Kill us, then, if that is what you came for." Sabina shook her head slowly. "No. Death is too short." She walked to Tavion. He flinched. "Tell me," she asked, "how long did you hunt my father?" Tavion's throat clenched. 3 days. Sabina reached up and touched his lips with the bone. "You'll live for 3 decades, reliving it, the same way he did, the same sun, the same thirst, the same ending." His scream echoed like a blade down a well. She turned to Varric. "You spat on my mother." "I," he choked, sweat pouring from him. "I was a boy. I didn't know." "I was born," she interrupted, "and still knew more mercy than you ever gave her." She pressed the bone to his forehead. "Your tongue will never know sweetness again. Salt only, rot, and the taste of blood from biting it each time you dream of me." Then she walked past Kademir, slow and merciless. "I do not curse you," she said. "My mother bound you." Mayrus stepped beside her daughter, wind curling around their legs like wolves gathering for a hunt. Sabina raised her hands. 7 bonds, 7 wounds, 7 years of worship before you all crumble to ash. "And after?" asked Lorcan, voice no louder than the wind. She paused. His face was red, eyes rimmed with tears, but there was a flicker in them, something almost devoted. "What happens after the 7 years?" he asked. "Do we die?" Sabina stared at him. "No." Her voice cracked. "You forget." Lorcan blinked. "Forget?" Sabina's eyes glistened, but no tear fell. "You forget me. Everything. Every look. Every hour. You'll forget how I laughed once in spring. You'll forget how I screamed in childbirth alone. You'll forget how I looked at you when you gave me wildflowers without knowing what they meant." A whisper fell over the men like smoke. "I will never forget you," Lorcan whispered, "even if you curse me 1,000 lifetimes." "That is the curse," she said quietly. "Only one of you won't forget." She turned her face away from him. "And you will beg too." Beside her, Maris lifted her hand. The stones beneath the 7 alphas burned red. They screamed. One by one, not from pain, from the realization that the bond was sealing not with love, but with memory. "You made me," Sabina whispered, "and I made your ending." The sun died behind the trees. The bond was complete. They woke the next day branded. Their chests bore her mark, 7 curved crescents stitched in scarred white flesh. None knew how it happened. They had not slept, but the pain told them it was real. All but one. Berengar was gone. No footprints, no scent trail, no howl, just silence. Sabina stood before the fire that night, her long white braid heavy with ash. Her face did not change, but her voice carried something it had never carried before. Uncertainty. How did he break it? Maris did not answer at once. She was crouched by the circle of stones, drawing blood runes in the dirt, using a crow's feather. Her silence lasted long enough for the fire to flicker blue. Sabina's voice rose. "Mother, if one escapes." "No one escapes," Maris said finally, low and brittle. "Not unless he was never yours to bind." Sabina froze. "What are you saying?" The older woman's hands stilled. "There were 7, she said, but I always sensed one wasn't like the others. I didn't know which. I warned you. You chose not to listen." Sabina's heart stuttered. "Which one?" Maris looked up slowly. "You tell me." Sabina turned, eyes flashing cold and wild. "Kaedemir," she called, storming into the den where they knelt. He rose, his body shivering with the aftermath of the bond. But he knelt again when he saw her. "My goddess." "Berengar, what do you remember of him?" Kaedemir's face twisted. He never spoke of the war. He was quiet, always watching. We thought him loyal, but, Kaedemir looked down. "He vanished once, long before the curse, for nearly a year, said he was injured, but he returned with no wound, and his eyes were different." Sabina's stomach twisted. "Why did none of you tell me?" "He feared you'd see it. Maybe we feared it too." She stepped back. Maris entered behind her, slowly. Sabina turned to her mother. "If he's not one of them." Maris nodded. "Then he's something else." Sabina's voice dropped, trembling. "Is he the one who forgets me?" "No," said a voice from the trees. They both turned. Instinctively, Sabina's hand flew to the bone dagger at her waist. But it was not Berengar who stepped forward. It was Lorcan. He looked like ruin. Hair wet, knees bruised from kneeling at her shrine. He hadn't eaten, hadn't slept, but something inside him burned brighter than the stars above them. "I followed him," Lorcan said. "I watched him vanish into the Kra marshes, but before he did, he dropped something." He opened his hand. In his palm, a ring, black stone, gold sigil, ancient. Sabina gasped. I've seen that before, she whispered. On my father's hand, the day they killed him. Maris's face turned to stone. Then it's true, she whispered. The seventh was never one of them. He was kin, blood of the Black Alpha, a second child born in secret, hidden among wolves to keep him from the curse. Sabina's knees almost gave. You mean? Yes, Maris breathed. You were not the only one born that year. The fire crackled behind them, casting long shadows over Sabina's face. I have a brother, she whispered. No, Maris said. You have a rival. The Kra marshes were not made for wolves. The reeds whispered lies. The water carried voices not yet born. Trees bent backward, as if hiding their leaves from the eyes of spirits that passed unseen. No pack dared enter, not even to chase prey. But Sabina walked it barefoot, cloak discarded, the white of her skin reflecting the pale moon like a blade glinting in the dark. She didn't speak. She didn't breathe louder than the fog. And still, the air thickened with every step as if it, too, knew what she was about to uncover. When she found him, he was waiting, not fleeing, not hiding, waiting. Berengar sat upon a stone outcrop, arms bare, head tilted toward the stars. The black ring was gone from his hand. His eyes, once gray, now shimmered with a sickening light familiar and wrong all at once. You followed, he said, without looking at her. Sabina didn't answer. Her dagger stayed in her hand, blade wet with the marsh's dew. She circled him, slowly. You're not cursed, she said flatly. You never were. He nodded. I was marked at birth. Mother knew. Sabina stiffened. Mother? Berengar turned. Not yours. Mine. Silence. My mother was a healer who traveled with your father before he met Maris, he said. Before he ever crossed the desert. They were bound, once, until your mother's tears rewrote destiny. Sabina's voice cracked. You're lying. I wish I were. He stood, his height matching hers, something no one else had ever done. His build mirrored hers. So did the set of his jaw, his hands, even the scar on his shoulder, the same mark Sabina had been born with, shaped like a raven's wing. I was hidden in the north, Berengar continued, raised by a pack that never told me whose blood I carried, until the night your curse began. That night something in me woke. I remembered every hunt, every death, every moment they struck our father. And I felt your voice. Sabina stepped closer, trembling. Then why didn't you come to me? Why join them? He looked at her, finally, and his eyes shattered her. Because I wanted to see what you would become. The words hit her like a whip. Her breath caught. I wanted to know, he said, softly now, if vengeance would make you into him or into them. Sabina's blade shook in her hand. They killed him, she said. They broke him. They spat on Mother's name. I became what I had to be. Berengar nodded. And you made them crawl. You made them love you and burn alive for it. You made them forget themselves. Tears rose to her eyes, unbidden. And you judge me for that. No, he said. I came to end it. Lightning cracked above them. No rain followed, just the threat of it. Sabina gripped the blade tighter. You think I'll fall to a brother I never knew? Berengar stepped toward her. No, he whispered. I think you already have. Silence. Then he did something she did not expect. He knelt. Not as a mate, not as an alpha, as family. I saw what you did to them, he said. And I still remembered you not as the Olbes, not as the giant, not as the Omega who couldn't be touched. He lifted his eyes. I remembered you as the girl who slept in ash, with blue eyes full of fire she didn't yet understand. I remembered my sister. Sabina shook. The dagger dropped from her hand. No, she whispered. I don't get to have family. Berengar didn't move. I'm not here to be your salvation, Sabina, he said. I'm here to carry the ending with you, not stop it. She stared at him. What do you mean? He stood, slowly. I marked the Alphas before you ever arrived. I poisoned the water they drank. Their bond sickness didn't come from your power alone. Sabina froze. Berengar nodded. We cursed them together, before you even knew I existed. The fire in her chest twisted. Why? She asked, voice raw. He looked away, back to the sky. Because vengeance was never yours alone. The wind howled. From the trees behind her came the first steps of pursuit. She didn't need to look, she knew. Lorcan, Kademir, Tavian. They had followed her trail, desperate, broken. Sabina closed her eyes. For the first time, she felt something shift deep in her soul. Not forgiveness, but grief, and something worse. The taste of fate she hadn't chosen. The marsh trembled beneath the weight of approaching madness. They came dragging feet, burning eyes, crawling through reeds like beasts struck blind with desire and dread. Lorcan was first. His face had changed. No longer the youngest, the softest. His jaw was sharp now, his eyes hollow. A man devoured from the inside by love so unreturned it had turned holy. Sabina, he croaked, falling to his knees the moment her scent hit him. You left without saying anything. He gasped. I nearly tore out my own throat. Sabina stood between him and Berengar, not speaking. Tavian stumbled after him, breathless, his shirt soaked in blood from scratching at the sigil burned into his chest. Kademir followed last, one hand dragging a broken blade, the other gripping his ribcage as if holding in something sacred and dying. When they saw Berengar, they froze. You, Kademir growled. Sabina stepped between them. He's not your enemy. He's not our alpha, Tavian hissed, pointing. He lied. He hid from the binding. He never knelt. He didn't suffer. Sabina's voice was steel now, because he was never meant to. Kademir's eyes narrowed. Then why is he here? Berengar said nothing. Sabina answered for him. Because he holds the truth, the one you deserve before the end. Lorcan shook, clutching her ankle like a sinner, grabbing the altar. No, don't speak it. Don't break what little we have left. Sabina's hand touched his head. I already did. She looked to Berengar. Tell them. Berengar stepped forward. The air stilled. Not even the marsh dared breathe. I am the firstborn, he said, but not from your alpha bloodlines. My father was hers, and yours. But I am not alpha. I am not omega. I was born outside the bond. He paused, and so was Sabina. Silence. Kademir blinked. What? Berengar didn't flinch. She was never an omega. The bond you feel, it was created. A force feeding of devotion shaped by Maris's blood rites and my father's death curse. No, Lorcan whispered. No, I felt her heat, her scent. It called to me. It called because it was designed to, Berengar said. Your souls were rewired to crave her, not love her. Sabina's voice cracked. I didn't know. She turned to them. I swear, I didn't know. But they didn't hear her. They were unraveling. Kaidemir dropped the blade. We weren't in love. Tavian fell to his knees. We were addicted. Lorcan just stared, his breath short, his hands limp. He looked up at her eyes, breaking. "Then what were you feeling?" he asked. "When I braided your hair, when I brought you the bone roses, when I asked you to speak my name before I slept." Sabina opened her mouth, then closed it. There was no answer that wouldn't shatter him. "I wanted it to be real," she whispered. He laughed. Once. A horrible sound. Then he stood slowly. "You know what I dreamed last night?" he asked. She didn't answer. "I dreamed of killing Kaidemir. I dreamed of tearing his throat open like a beast, just so you'd look at me the way you looked at him when you cursed him first." The others stepped back. Lorcan stepped forward. "I loved you past the point of language," he said, tears falling. "And now I find out it was sorcery? That you fed me madness and called it fate?" Sabina trembled. "I was a child born from grief. You want someone to blame the ones who killed my father. Blame your ancestors who hunted my kind to extinction." Berengar tried to speak, but Lorcan raised a hand. No. His face was a storm no sky could hold. No more truths. He looked at Sabina. Only a choice. He drew a blade from his belt. Not to kill her. He turned it on himself. Sabina's scream broke the marsh in half, but Berengar was faster. His hand struck Lorcan's wrist, twisting the blade from him, sending it skittering across the stones. Lorcan collapsed, sobbing, shaking, undone. And from the shadows, a voice rose. "It is done." They all turned. Myris. She stood behind them, robes black as judgment. Her eyes were hollow. "You know now what was never meant to be spoken," she said. Sabina stepped forward, voice full of ash. "You knew." "Yes. You let me believe I was their mate. Yes. You fed me power soaked in lies." Myris did not deny it. "I wanted you feared," she said, "not loved. I raised you for retribution, not romance." Sabina whispered, "Then you never loved me." Myris looked at her daughter. "I loved you enough to make sure no one would ever harm you again, even if it meant becoming the monster you feared most." And then she stepped into the fire. The flames didn't consume her. They welcomed her. They closed, and Sabina stood alone, surrounded by men who no longer loved her, beside a brother she didn't ask for, within a curse she couldn't undo. Lorcan vanished into the night, not as an alpha, not even as a man, but as a broken altar searching for gods cruel enough to answer prayers made of bone and obsession. Sabina chased him for 3 nights, through forest, through snow, through echoes that didn't belong to him. By the 4th night, she found him at the edge of the bleeding grove where trees grew in circles around a pool of red water that never dried, where it was said wolves went when they no longer feared death but feared forgetting. He stood naked in the crimson pool, body shaking, arms outstretched, his blood mixed with the water as he carved sigils into his own chest. "Lorcan!" she screamed, voice cracking with something too human. He didn't turn. He was whispering. The words weren't for her. They weren't even his. They were ancient, carved into the marrow of the land, spoken only by those who begged to reverse bonds that should not be severed. "You don't know what you're doing," she cried. He turned, smiling. "Not like a man in love. Like a man already dead." I asked them, he said, voice dreamlike. "The ones beneath the roots. I gave them everything I had left." Her steps faltered. "What did they give you?" He stepped toward her. The blood on his chest was burning now, glowing like molten iron. "One night," he whispered. Her heart stopped. "One night where the bond is real. No curses, no rights, no revenge. One night where you want me." Sabina trembled. "You made a death pact." "I made a memory," he said, "because I'd rather burn for eternity with your love in my mind than wake up every day wondering if you ever meant it." She couldn't breathe. She had stripped kings of their names. She had watched warlords weep. But this was a kind of surrender even she had no weapon for. "Lorcan, I never—" "Don't lie to me now," he said, eyes bright and damned. "Just give me the lie, one last time. Say it." The wind died. Sabina stepped into the pool. Her fingers grazed his jaw. The burn beneath his skin flared, but he didn't move away. She brought her lips to his ear, and she whispered, "I love you." He collapsed, not from injury, from peace. And the moment her lips left his ear, the pact sealed. The roots beneath the grove cracked open, and something rose. A shape without form, a howl without origin, a spirit forged from all the souls she'd condemned, every alpha who had burned for her, every hunter who had died by her name, every bloodline shattered in her mother's storm. The spirit had no eyes, but it looked at her and judged. "What did you give?" it asked. Sabina couldn't speak. Lorcan answered for her. "She gave me a night." The spirit shifted. "Then she gives us her life." Before she could scream, it struck, not her body, her bond, every strand of energy tying her to the others. Ripped. Sabina fell, gasping, hands to her chest. The pain wasn't physical. It was like dying in reverse. The alpha's screams echoed across the forest. Wherever they were, whether crawling through ice or chained to madness, they felt it. The love was gone, and only the curse remained. Lorcan held her as she shook, his breath slowing, his heartbeat fading. "Do you see me now?" he asked softly. She nodded, tears mixing with the red water. "I always did." He smiled, and bled out in her arms. She buried him in silence. No rites, no tears, no mother left to hum a death song. Just her hands, raw from digging into cold earth, each claw of dirt, a memory she would never get back. Sabina laid Lorcan down beside the altar where her father's jawbone once rested. She removed her braid white as ash and placed it across his chest. Her body burned with the echo of the bond that no longer existed. Her soul ached in a place even her mother's curses couldn't reach. When she stood, the wind did not stir. Even the moon refused to look down. She turned and found him there, Kademir, bleeding, starved, ragged, and still alive. But not as a warrior, not as an alpha. As the last of the condemned who had not yet begged for death. "I waited," he said. His voice was hoarse, hollowed out by every night of devotion that had turned to rot inside his ribcage. "You killed my brothers," Sabina said, with silence, with obedience, with pride. He didn't deny it. "I loved you with all the pieces of me that weren't already burning." Sabina stepped toward him. "I never asked for your love." "I know," he whispered. She paused. "You could have run like Berengar." "I did," Kademir said, "but I ran in circles. Every path brought me back to your scent, even when it stopped smelling like salvation." Sabina lifted her hand. No magic, just grief. Why come now? He dropped to his knees. To die with the last of the bond inside me. She blinked. There's nothing left to break. He looked up, smiling with tears in his beard. Then let me be broken anyway. Her fingers touched his temple. He closed his eyes. She whispered, "You were never mine." "I know," he breathed. "But for 1 second, can you let me believe I was?" Sabina leaned down and kissed his forehead, like a priestess giving last rites to the last sinner of a dying world. He exhaled, and his body stilled. No scream, no light, just peace. For the first time, they all slept. She remained alone in the forest, barefoot, robes torn, hair gone. No bonds, no pack, no mother, no vengeance left to seek, just silence. Sabina walked into the marsh as dawn broke. The waters rippled around her knees, the fog curling like fingers trying to remember what she once was. And she whispered not to spirits, not to wolves, but to the moon itself, "Remember me not as the one who was worshipped, but as the one who was never held." Then she vanished beneath the still water. A single breath, a final ripple, and nothing else. The end. A tragedy not about love, but what it costs to survive it. Thanks for watching. If this moved you, show some love, subscribe, send a hype, or drop a like. It's how the next story gets told.